Hello there, Qckslvrslash here, and today we have the Tier 6 British battleship, the Queen Elizabeth, and this is Sneaky Snake playing at one of the BIA World of Warships presenters. And this ship should be pretty familiar to anyone who has seen the Warspite in game because, well, the Warspite was a Queen Elizabeth class. There have, however, as one might expect, been some minor changes for the tech tree ship as compared to the premium vessel, and much like the Tirpitz and Bismarck, that's kind of how you can think about the Warspite and Queen Elizabeth. They're very similar, but there's some mild differences in there. Now, one of the other interesting things about this game is there is a Corgi fleet ship on the enemy team, the enemy Mutsu, and that can always breed just a little bit of stupidity as people zero in hoping to get, the little bit of an extra prize for sinking them. Now, off the bat, you can kind of see the way the team is starting to split up. You've got a Mahan, Miyoko, and Nagato who are pushing straight north, pretty much full speed ahead. Emerald and Nuremberg are heading off to the east, and the rest of the team's kind of trying to figure out what they want to do. But the Sneaky Snake is kind of playing both fields. He's getting himself closer into the range of any of these enemy cruisers that are spotted nice and early, and La Galissonière is going to be the unfortunate recipient of a first volley. Cruiser sailing side on, generally an easy enough target. The shells are out, now it's in RNG's hand. Will they hit hard or just a hit? And, well, 7,000 damage, not too bad. It's about a quarter of that cruiser's health, so a couple more hits and she's going to be a goner. And you can see there are a number of ships focusing her down, and torpedoes are already on the way. But with her turned away, Sneaky Snake sees side-on Graf Spee and switches targets. This is really the thing to do early game, particularly in these longer engagements, is just try to always shoot whatever side on, get the big damage in early. It's only when ships get closer that I'd really say really focusing something down matters. Now, looking at the teams as they continue to split up, the enemy team really only looks to have sent two ships down that eastern flank, a Texas and Murmansk. So an Emerald and Nuremberg are almost adequate, with Sneaky Snake turning over to help. This one should be over. However, there is an enemy Atlanta working his way into the center area of the map, and this is a very powerful position for the Atlanta if you find an island to sit behind, and that's really where this enemy Atlanta makes its mistake. It was in a channel of islands, but it sailed out. Now, initially I thought maybe he's trying to get behind this island here. It's a little bit lower, and it would really offer some good cover to just rainbow shells over solid land, but then it turns out and starts sailing straight into open ocean. Sneaky Snake makes him pay 10,000 damage in the first volley, and, well, a friendly Iron Duke lets the shells fly, and that's pretty much going to be all she wrote. Any second here, that ship is going to the bottom of the ocean. There's the AP shells, drill straight through the side of that ship, and good night, Captain. Which brings us back to the Texas and this Murmansk. Now you can see the Texas really hasn't stopped sailing forward. The Murmansk kind of pulled off to do a full turn. And Snake fires right at that Texas. The shells are looking good. Nice tight spread on them, and just shy of 15,000 damage. That's pretty much enough to even the odds here. See, the Emerald has let her torpedoes fly and is sitting inside smoke, and really, that's all that Emerald can do. There's a plane in the air doing the spotting. That Texas is going to the bottom of the ocean. So, Sneaky Snake switches to the Murmansk and just pulls the trigger right as she disappears. Will the shells hit? And they do. 2 citadels for a huge chunk of damage. So at this point, it's safe to say that flank is secure. Let's turn around and get in the fight and help the team. Because so far, things are in a dead heat. One ship, or two ships apiece, one battleship, one cruiser, and you can see the Nagato is long gone. That Mahan and Miyoko, well, they're getting beaten down. They're sticking out apart from the main force, and that's really what gets you focused down. Now, the Mahan is just getting peppered. She's going to have a hard time breaking detection, and will probably find her way to the bottom pretty quick. The enemy Murmansk, though, gets finished off, so, well, at least Snake's team is up a ship momentarily, and you can kind of see people in Cat going like, what's going on? And I don't know. That, to me, seems a bit like someone who's a little sad that they died early. There goes the Mahan, and you can see that enemy Grafspee. She's just about a goner. This Iron Duke also kind of sticking out. So, obvious choice here. Finish off the ship. Grafspee is side on, so Snake lets him go, and they're looking alright. Unfortunately, someone far closer gets the shots in, gets the kill before Snake shells get there. And they just exchanged 1 for 1. No more Miyoko, but no more Grafspee. Now, while things look pretty even, you know, looking around at the health, a lot of these enemy ships seem to be on pretty full health. You know, the Qckslvrslash is just about beat up, but what can be hard right now is getting that momentum. All of Snake's team keeps just like rotating back in the same area, and the enemy team, if they had really been balled up together, could have probably pushed in and got them. They definitely outnumber, as there's currently a Nuremberg and Emerald kiting up the other side of the map. And, you know, maybe that Bliss lays a nice smokescreen in, gets some spotting, but instead the Błyskawica charged in for what I can only assume was a torpedo run, because, well, you need to get decently close to be able to fire torpedoes, and there is a very tempting group of ships here. And got killed before it could make it to solid cover. Here's the torpedo, so yeah, pretty easy to call what they were doing, and it just wasn't worth it. And you see Snake looking around, who am I going to shoot? And this Emerald is perfectly side on. It's time to end them. Or at least, probably what I would have done. But for now, Snake lets the shells fly. At the Mutsu, okay hit, 3,700. But really, getting rid of this Emerald should be an easy enough task. They keep giving themselves a really nice side view, and they're just getting closer and closer. So I suspect this next volley will be the one that Snake ends their game. You can see him looking at the Mutsu. There's the Emerald. Perfect side-on shot. These are gonna be Citadels, and that's gonna be another ship on the bottom of the ocean. There she goes. Snake picks up a devastating strike and their Confederate medal up to first kill, sorry. But 85,000 damage. And I would probably consider firing at Qckslvrslash right now. There's a lot of tempting targets in closer, but I think Snake just doesn't quite see it. Cruiser on 3,000 health, definitely worth finishing off, because there's just one more target you don't have to deal with. And right now, things are in pretty much a dead heat. They have a 1 kill lead, but that's going to be pretty tenuous because this Iron Duke Tally-Ho has zoned in on that enemy Corgi captain, charging straight in, probably thinking he's got more support than he does, and he's just sailed right out of the group, and, you know, once you're alone, you get focused down really quick. A good hit on the York there, just shy of 10k, and, well, Iron Duke dodges some torps, but is now a sitting duck. Meanwhile, there is a Qckslvrslash managed to get across that middle gap and behind some solid island. but the friendly Nuremberg and Emerald are in the enemy base. So it's definitely starting to put some pressure on the enemy team. They're going to either have to go back and deal with that or risk getting captured. Now, initially, I think that's what the Qckslvrslash was trying to do, that or just get into a position that they could sit behind land and fire their shells, because they pretty much got taken out of this really early. They either had to sit at the back or behind something hard. And this Mutsu right now is starting to look a little alone. The Iron Duke is still managing to survive. She did get turned out, but ships keep firing at her, and you always just gotta imagine just clenching that little bit as each volley comes towards your ship, because it really could be the last once you hit that 1,000 health mark. And you can see Snake checking over on the ally. There she goes, and unfortunately that means Snake is probably going to be the target now, because the rest of the ship sailed over to deal with that Qckslvrslash. So now it's Snake versus really a Queen Elizabeth, Mutsu, and a York. They're all in gun range. That Nelson and Iron Duke probably trying to deal with the Nuremberg and Emerald. And really, I think the right decision was made here. Snake turns out is transitioning to a running fight. You know, the stern may not be the strongest part of the ship, but it's better than giving your flat side. And potentially, you can outrun that other Queen Elizabeth if she's not sailing straight at you already. And every set of guns you can pull off of you is worthwhile. Snake lobbing some shells over the hill there, just shy of 4,000 damage with that single shell. And I don't really like what the Emerald and Nuremberg did here. Like, it made sense to get into the cap, but you gotta get there at the same time, and you can see they didn't. The Emerald probably used its smoke initially. As it ran out, was forced to turn and run, and now they're getting picked off one by one. And of course, the Nuremberg did detonate, because obligatory exploding Nuremberg. It's just the rules. Now, I do feel what the enemy team is doing is a good call. You can see they've all turned back to the base, and they're going to deal with that threat before engaging Snake and this Cleveland enemy. Unfortunately for that York, sitting pretty side on and in kill range. Shells going just a little far and all of them over penetrating, so survives that one. But really is going to be the next thing to die, because they turned in. For whatever reason, they decided, I'm going straight at this battleship. And they're flinging HE, because why not? Snake finishes them off, picks up a second kill and the high caliber. And at this point, it really is going to be a brawl. That Emerald, well, she's not going to survive much longer that close to 3 battleships, or at least I'd hope she doesn't survive that much longer. But the Nelson's sailing away and all her guns are on her bow. The Mutsu, rightfully so, is chasing down, and the Queen Elizabeth is doing the same thing. And interestingly, it's the Nelson who finishes it off. Looks like she turned, got all the guns on, and just let the shells fly. So now it's 3-on-3. 3 battleships versus a battleship and a pair of cruisers. And I'd rather be in Snake's position right now. The simple reason being that if Snake plays smart, he can really do all the spotting and tank a lot of damage. And these cruisers can just put out the DPM. See both of them just flinging HE. This Corgi ship, she's not going to be alive for much longer. It's a lot of shells hitting her, and no one else on that enemy team is currently spotted. And this is where things can get risky at the end of a game. And I can pretty much guarantee the same is true. Snake is probably the only one on his team spotted right now, because I feel that Emil has enough hard cover that it's covered, and you can see the Cleveland's working in behind islands. So it's hard to say, and that's unfortunate. A big hit landing, and Snake is forced to use one of those remaining repair parties. Looking for a shot on the Mutsu, wants to finish it off. And you just gotta trust that that land indicator is correct, and sometimes it isn't. You can see he's still saying it. There it goes, clear shot. The shells are loose, all clearing that cliff face. And these are looking pretty good. They just gotta drop, and nope. The Mutsu slips between another volley. This ship proving to be harder to kill than one might expect, because to me one of the Mutsu's kind of weaker points is her armor. Now, unfortunately for Snake's team, that Cleveland's kind of getting itself into a dangerous position. It's much further forward, and trying to maintain a shot. You can see it's poking that bow out around a corner. There's 3 battleships staring her down. So, gonna need a big shot here, and you gotta get rid of one of these enemy ships. And it's ideally gonna be this Mutsu, just because she's on the low health. 5,500 damage, a decent hit, but not enough. And now the Mutsu is dark. And sadly, the Cleveland is gone. So now it's 3-on-2. This battle is getting a little more desperate, but the score is close. Because that Emerald and Nuremberg were in the enemy base for so long, despite being a ship down, they're only 30 points behind. So really, all Snake and this Emil Bertin should be trying to do is essentially drag this out, get the ships to expose themselves, finish one of them off, and then they've won. The Nelson comes around that corner, the big bow, full display, big hit, 11,286 damage. That's only 3 shells. And you can see that Emil just flinging HE, but not really hitting yet. And Snake just being very wary where those enemy ships are when gunfire is coming his way. Next volley out. Fortunately, that Nelson does land a pair of fires, so Snake hits the repair party, using up the final one. And you can see Snake's being careful despite 2 fires burning right now. If you use that damage control, you run a huge risk. He was undetected for a moment, that's when he hit it, momentarily respotted, and then finally went dark. And that's a really good way to use that. You sometimes just have to let those fires tick away for even a few seconds to ensure nothing has shots at you. Because if you hit that damage control and then, you know, the second it runs out, get lit back up, that's going to be a large portion of your health, and you're no longer repairing that. Now, the obvious choice from the enemy team at this point is to stay dark. Don't show yourself. There's less than a minute left. You've got the point lead, so you've got the game. And you can see Snake kind of realizing that he's getting himself into a forward position. He's just trying to charge in and find a ship. Now, ideally, it's going to be that Mutsu, the enemy Corgi captain. And it's going to be soon, because there are 20 seconds left, and it's going to take a solid 5 seconds for the shells to get there. There she is. The shots are out. Win or loss right here. Mutsu disappears, but she sinks. With the Corgi ship game, the time ticks out, and Snake's team is victorious. 431,000 credits, 5,400 experience, devastating strike, Confederate, high caliber, and dreadnought. And just a few ticks shy of 200,000 damage. 4 citadels and 3 kills, the most important one coming with 3 seconds left. And I'm really liking to see how many of these games are coming down to those final seconds. You know, there was a good chunk of time there where it seemed like 5 minutes in, the game was over. And now it's shifting, and right into the final moments of the game is actually getting decided. And Sneaky Snake pushed at the right time. All that Mutsu really had to do was jam itself behind an island, not get spotted, and they won. But they turned, they were momentarily spotted, and that's all it took. A snapshot deciding the game. And no surprise here, Sneaky Snake on the top of the team, where he deserves to be for basically winning it in the last moments for his team. And you can see the damage done there and how you get to 200,000 damage, and a huge chunk of it's actually that Mutsu, and then just big chunks of a couple other ships. That 24,000 on the Mermaids coming in one volley, 2 citadels. And that had to suck for that cruiser because she was only spotted for a few seconds. And end of the day, Sneaky Snake took home 319,000 credits, 5,400 experience, and a hell of a lot more for the commander. Thank you very much for sending this one in. If you want a link to the BIA channel, look down in the description. Hope everyone enjoyed this. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you all later.